That's right, your local station, 98.9 Northwest FM. You're on CarTorque with Matty J. Joined in the studio by my good friend James. How you going, James?
Glad to be back for the fourth time. I think people...
Well, I think it's third, yeah. I think it's third time. I'm not too sure. It's
we've lost count so many times, and there's so many Jameses. I think people have gone crazy hearing James this, James that.
I think I've had 4 different Jameses on, to be honest with you.
It's crazy. I
had Bucko on last week, and I had I've got like my cousin James, and there's another. I think I had another James as well. So people at home, you're not hearing the same James, but you're hearing another James.
Or maybe it's like split personality. It's the same person, just different personality.
Just a different personality. I like the way you think, James. So thanks for coming back on again.
No, I'm glad to be here. Good. I love listening and I love talking crap.
We like to talk crap on the show. What can I say?
Crap talk, it should be called.
Crap.
There's only one letter difference.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's Well, I'm done for tonight. I can just walk out. I'm done.
Thanks everybody for listening.
Thanks for coming. I'll be here next week. So tonight on the topic, we've got a few topics we're talking about, but you wanted to bring up the Japanese automotive industry.
Yeah, last time I was on the show, we talked a lot about the Australian automotive industry and basically the death of the automotive industry in Australia. So I was just interested in talking about the Japanese automotive industry, which has been extremely successful for the last 50 years and just doesn't seem to be stopping.
No, and that's right. I mean, the Japanese really pioneered everyone else's technology. That's why they get called the masters of the knockoff, because they took old designs and engine designs and they said, you know what, how can we fix this, make this better? And then it just shows they're the biggest, to me, they're technology wise and reliability wise just ahead of the game.
We were talking again before, I think last episode I was on, like the reliability is just, you mentioned a Japanese brand and it's reliable and it's safe and people know it.
Yeah.
And you don't hear about that with even some of the premium European cars. So
yeah,
it's like a whole nother level.
And that's right. And that's why the Japanese especially get such a good rap, but also a bad rap, because they're like, oh, if they're reliable, they're not fun, or they're not as exciting, which is completely not true. But that's the connotations that I guess come along with reliability. You think reliability, you think safe. Whereas if you think fun and sporty, you think of things that could potentially break.
I think when you think of Mustang, it's kind of like a death trap,
going into crowds.
But it's still fun, so people think of it fondly.
Yeah, no, and at the end of the day, if you speak to anyone about a Japanese car, they'll be like to you, okay, it'll last forever, basically.
Yeah. My car, we've talked about this a million times before. I'm sure people are sick of it. My car is falling apart, but it's a Mazda, and I'm sure it's going to last another 10 years. Yeah, even if it's only on 3 wheels and, with 1 door, it'll still go. The engine is, for such a beat-up car, my engine is spotless. Yeah. It's just Mazda.
Mazda quality, really.
Yeah, Mazda quality.
And it's like, and you've got the 1.6 as well in that, and it's done what, 250 odd thousand Ks?
A billion Ks. Yeah. Like, it's just, I don't know how it even turns over.
Still turns over in the morning. It still gets you to work.
It still turns on in the cold. So I mean, that's a good sign.
That's exactly right. At the end of the day, you want a good. It's your first car. You want good reliability. You want something that's just going to get you there, and it's going to get you home.
Something I can learn, practice a bit in. Doesn't matter if it's beat up.
No, well, and at the end of the day, when you're looking for a first car, like, do you remember high school and these people getting like Beamers and Mercs?
Yeah,
and that?
like that's ridiculous.
I'm just like, for a first car, they're gonna like it's gonna be destroyed.
Yeah,
it's to touch wood, it doesn't happen, but like it happens. Yeah, it's a first car. It's you make mistakes.
Exactly.
So, whereas like the more sensible option was getting like a Mazda or a Toyota.
Exactly, something you can like become experienced and confident with.
Yeah,
before you get your dream sort of supercar.
Well, yeah, well, I mean that's why I started. I started with an old '90s Laser.
Yeah.
and a KH one. It was falling apart from the moment I got it. I think I spent more on repairs than I did on the car, but like it still went. It still kept going. To keep it going, I just had to put a bit of money in it, but it was pretty dead when I bought it. But it was the first car, and then I learned so much. I learned so much about cars that doing the work on myself.
Yeah.
Plus, it was Japanese, so the parts were
There you go. Yeah.
because based on a Mazda,
you had a
everywhere.
Camry as well, which was bloody invincible until someone took it out.
Yeah, so I had a V6 Camry from '91, which it was a Japanese import, that one. And the technology in that was fantastic. It's super
they're
reliable.
way ahead of everyone else.
Like you remember that car? It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was an awesome car. Had absolutely everything. We had a Fairmont, an XF Fairmont of almost like a couple of years older than it, and technology wise, the Camry blew it out of the park. You know, so. And like for performance wise as well, the Camry was quick. If you remember it, it went good. It used to scare the Commodore and Falcon boys at the time, which was pretty hilarious. They'd be looking getting passed by a Camry. They're like, what the hell? But Japanese I guess the engine was small and it was only 2.5 liter.
Yeah.
But it was
They make small like cars,
efficient.
but they're very efficient, and I mean people still race them, and the way people talk about Subarus and Supras and all those things, like that's like a next level street racing stuff.
Yeah.
Like they're not just family cars. They're fun fast cars.
And that's the thing, like, so when people say, oh well, you get the badge numbers, oh it's not a BMW, or it's not a Merc. For that, the reason why that pisses me off more than anything else is that they don't give other car companies credit. And being a car enthusiast, you have to. Like, I love European cars. Like, I love all sorts of cars. But at the end of the day, when they say, oh, if it doesn't have a German-made badge, it's no good. But having said that, a lot of German-badged cars aren't even made in Germany anymore. Yeah. So, whereas the Japanese cars, usually, except for like a few made in like Thailand and that, are pretty much made in Japan. Yeah. And they put quality and effort into their cars. Yeah. Not just say, oh look, I've got a Merc just to have a badge. You know what I mean? So, and they stand the test of time. I mean, look how well my Camry held up after all those years. The paint was good. It
was immaculate car for how old it was.
25 years old. Yeah. And it was a shame to see it go. Like I do miss that car.
Everyone was sad that day.
It was like someone had left. It was like a death in the family. Yeah. It was we had the car for like 15 years and it was a sad day. It was a sad day, but you live and you learn, and you move on to your next project, I guess. And I guess we moved on to bigger and better things. But at the end of the day, it was a great car. And people say, "Oh, how can a Camry leave an impression on you?" I'm like, "Well, it did. It was a great car. Not because it was a Camry and it was super reliable, but because it was actually a really good car. It was fun to drive. It had plenty of power. So and you wouldn't expect that out of a Japanese box, really. So, which is kind of what it was. But yeah, no, like obviously your experience with Japanese cars being your Mazda, it just shows that as beat up as it can be, they still go, and a lot of people's paddock bashes are like Japanese cars.
Exactly. Like I said, without the doors, you can still, it still goes.
Yeah, it was still move. And I think my mum had an old, like one of the early, like I think it was a 2nd gen Corolla, like a really old one of those rear-wheel drive ones, really cool car. And her brothers driving down a country road, they actually rolled it, and it was stuffed. Yeah, it was hammered. Anyway, they rolled it back over, it became a paddock bash, and it suffered immense pain, and it still kept going. And it was.
I think the same with your Camry, and the same with my mum's. Galant.
That's right, yeah.
Like, the only time a Japanese car stops is when someone smashes into it and writes it off.
Someone takes it off.
Yeah, it usually never dies because of its, mechanics fail or electronics fail. It's because someone else bumps into, smashes into it with another car. Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, look, yeah, we'll continue on this and an extra topic as well, which is electric cars we're going to be talking about. But we're going to go to our first song. We're back on 98.9 Northwest FM. We're talking the Japanese automotive industry and electric cars. Send us a text on 4477 989. That's 044777 989. Tell us your thoughts. Tell us what you're thinking. We'll give you a shout on radio. And we can discuss your points if you've got some good points. So send us a text on 044777 989. So James, the Japanese automotive industry, it is booming.
It has been booming since 1966.
Yep.
50 years ago.
Yep.
And it has not stopped. And it doesn't seem to be showing any signs of stopping.
Won't be stopping.
And that's really sad when you compare it to Australia. When I was looking up, the history of the Japanese auto industry, I found out they're the third largest auto manufacturer in the world. They were the first for a long time in the 80s and 90s,
yep.
Fighting with America.
So who are they behind?
China's first.
China's first?
Yeah.
No way.
And US is second.
There you go.
And Japan's third, but only recently. So Japan was first up until about 2009-ish.
Okay.
And then China, their economy's just been smashing it lately. They pushed past, and Japan was second, and then the US kind of like redoubled their efforts. I guess I'm assuming after the financial crisis, they've kind of picked up the slack, yeah. Which is another interesting point. After the financial crisis, Japan, as well as America, I'm assuming, and probably China too, like everyone just put money into the automotive industry and made it bigger and more successful, which I think Australia did the opposite of that.
Yeah, well,
I think they ignored the industry, which didn't help the economy.
Well, yeah, well, we know where we know
where that ended up.
And what did you say we were on the?
Oh yeah, that comes to my point is so Japan is third. Australia is the 33rd biggest auto manufacturer in the world, behind Uzbekistan at 32. So I think Australia, we need to get our act together. At least we can get, past Uzbekistan as a bigger auto industry.
I don't think it's going to be happening anymore because we're in production very shortly. But it was good while it lasted.
Yeah. I think it'll be remembered fondly.
It will be like we were talking about a couple. Whenever you last on like 4 weeks ago.
A few weeks.
We got a listener in the US. So big ups to Dave. He's basically said to us, they want our cars there.
Yeah.
He's like. There's big ups for like Aussie cars, and he's like we wish we had the XR6 Turbo. He's like we get the SSs and stuff, but he's like we wish we got the Ute.
Yeah.
And he's like they would go gangbusters there, but it didn't happen. And because it didn't happen, that was probably one of our last chances to really break the market and get out there. And it's failed us, So at the end of the day, we're going to be importing cars. So
that's how the Japanese, become so big. They started exporting, yep. And now they're, just getting bigger and bigger. And I think you said before, Mazda is the biggest selling car in. Yeah,
the Mazda 3 was for a while here like the biggest selling car. Like even the Toyota Hilux as well.
Yeah,
we sell more Hiluxes than pretty much anywhere, I think. But the point I was trying to make is like the Mazda 3 here is like in the world per capita. I think they said it was. We're their biggest export.
Yeah,
we buy more Mazda 3s than pretty much anywhere in the world. So. And Hilux as well. So, we love our Japanese cars here. And it really shines because if we would have taken some leaf out of the Japanese book, which Ford kind of delved into with the laser and stuff and the smaller cars. Because they were in the Telstar, which they were building in their Homebush plant, but they ended up importing afterwards. They would have, if they would have said, okay, well, we're going to use your technology just to build them here.
Yeah.
They could have saved a lot of jobs, but at the end of the day.
I don't know much about this, but could they have gone to Mazda and said, hey, we can manufacture your cars here instead of you importing them?
Well, at the time, Ford had a big stake in Mazda. I think I'm pretty sure like they're still pretty much in bed together.
Yeah.
But like they don't have as big a stake as they used to. Because during the GFC, Ford pretty much sold everyone off.
Yeah.
To survive. So, What they did, but basically back in the 80s, they shared parts. So they shared platforms. So they were like to Mazda. What can we use as our new small car? Because we're not going to be taking the Escort from the UK anymore, from Europe anymore. They're like, well, we can give you the 323, and you call it whatever you want to call it. And it's pretty much identical, just with a few different body panels and badging. And that was built here. So pretty much all the tooling and stuff was sent here. And we learnt the German way. The Japanese way of their. We learned their technology. And I was watching a documentary, and the guys like, we learned so much from that exercise, how the Japanese were building cars so efficiently and with quality that we changed the way we started building cars. And if that's not a wake up call to the world, in the 80s, it should have woken up way before then and said, we should just keep doing that. You know, like taking the leaf out of your book and do it here.
I mean, I was reading Japan in the 80s and 90s had I think it's like an R&D like revolution.
Yep.
And they called it, what do they call it? Hyper design and hyper equipment.
Okay.
And so they just went, nuts with all the electronics and, just innovating with all that stuff. And you can still see that, today. I think, like you said, a lot of people are learning from that. And I was glad to hear, I think a couple of weeks ago that, the R&D department of Ford is still staying in Australia.
Yeah, it is. So
I'm hoping that even if the cars aren't built here, there's still going to be that R&D, technology revolution that stays in Australia, and that people will be driving Australian cars just built, somewhere else.
And look, and that's right, because Ford here does a lot of stuff for Australasia. So basically, like for example, the Ranger was designed here. It's built in Thailand, but the Ranger and the Everest and all that, even like the Falcon, obviously. But their R&D, the way they drive is really good, and for them to be picked up all over the world, it's we're selling the cars. Fair enough, they're not built here, but our design teams and our you're right, our R&D and our general ability is really, really good.
Yeah,
it's just we went about it too little, too late. And whereas the Japanese during the 80s were just going nuts, you know, and they were building cars way beyond anything we could have dreamt about. So at the end of the day, we're going to keep our R&D here, but it's not going to be built here. So for example, like the Mazda BT50 is the same as the Ford Ranger, and the underpinnings and all that was pretty much designed here. So Japan and Ford and like Australia, especially Ford, will still have that connection. But like other companies like Holden, because they're General Motors, they're smaller cars like from Korea and Europe. They're not going to have that R&D kind of thing like they used to, because they were just importing cars or having the Commodore.
Yeah. And
because they haven't really connected in other aspects, like they've still got the R&D teams.
Yeah.
It's not going to be as strong.
Hopefully they don't lose that, just because now we'd be purely importing everything.
Yep.
So hopefully they don't lose that spark that helped the Japanese in the 80s and 90s.
Well, at the end of the day, if you look at your modern day Commodore, it's a great car. It is a fantastic car. It's the latest incarnation is better than the Falcon. Yeah. Hands down. And it's a testament to how good our design and stuff.
I don't think I've ever heard you say a good thing about Holden over Ford.
No, a VF Commodore is a great car. Drivability wise,
that's the first CarTorque first history being made.
Well, it's a generation ahead because obviously the Falcon was dying out, so they didn't bother to redo it, put it for the new generation. Whereas the Commodore, they just said, "Oh, we'll give you one more." It's a step ahead of the Falcon. I'm not going to deny that, but over time it's been pretty much level peggings here and there. Yeah. It's tit for tat. It's kind of back and forward. Like someone's done better, but but with the Japanese, they've always just been better than everybody. And I was speaking to you off air about this. The rotary engine basically was I think it was designed by NSU. I'm pretty sure it was a German company. And the car won Car of the Year when it first came out, but the engines weren't lasting. They were blowing up and just the apex seals and just getting blown out and not lasting. These were German cars, like supposed to be really solid cars. The Japanese said, okay, well, because pretty much everyone gave up on that engine, like, oh, well, it's not going to work. So they were like, you know what? screw it, we'll see if we can do it. And they really pioneered rotary technology with their RX range, you know, especially when like the Mazda RX-7, RX-3's Capellas, you know, all that stuff.
I'd say legendary cars by now.
Oh yeah, 100%, way legendary. Like everyone knows what a rotary is. Everyone knows especially what a Mazda RX-7 is. So even if you don't know RX-3s and RX-2s, but at the end of the day, people know what a rotary is, and they made them reliable, and no one else could do it.
Yeah.
So, and that just shows how good the Japs were.
That's the thing. Like after World War II, the Japanese, you know, didn't have the strength to make their own cars, so they would just copy European cars, you know, especially German cars.
Yep.
And you know, by the 60s, they were like completely innovating off that base. So it's the same with the rotary engine.
Yep.
And you know, I'm hoping in the future that there's more stuff like that. We can just like, you know, collaborate and keep moving forward and making things bigger and better on top of what's come before, and not just kind of stall where we are. Yeah,
like I think everyone in the automotive, like anyone in the automotive world, really wants that to happen.
Yeah,
and you know, it's good to see. You know, it's competition. It's exciting. You know, it keeps us petrol heads going.
Yeah.
Really. I have no purpose on this earth.
Gives you a radio show.
It gives me a radio show.
Gives you a purpose for your radio show.
It gives me a reason to be talking crap on a Tuesday night. But you know, at the end of the day, you have to take into account these are multi-billion-dollar corporations, and you know they're the decision makers at the end of the day. But having said that, you know, after the war as well, like they were copying a lot of like, you know, Chevrolet small block engines, and just they're copying everybody, but they were getting it right, and that's where the people started taking
the
notice.
Soviets were making copies as well. Those didn't work out very well.
Not as well. But I mean, look at the Lada. It went for like what 60 years.
We should have a show on Soviet cars. That would be just a laugh.
It'd be a good laugh. I think the next time we get you on, we'll have to talk about the Soviet cars. Good look, that's some interesting stuff. I'm not going to deny that. But yeah, no, definitely with the Japanese cars though, to me they're one step ahead.
Yeah.
Like as far ahead as the Germans are with their like technology, because as I was speaking about last week. For example, in a Mercedes S-Class, what that car has in 10 years, your normal car will have. Yeah, your normal car will have, but the Japanese will make it reliable.
Yeah, and now affordable as well. Affordable is, I think I was talking last time, like the electronics side of it, you know, the innovations they made.
Unparalleled.
For affordable prices, like for family cars, for, you know, everyday use. I mean, stuff that you'd only find in luxury cars is in, you know, your typical Mazda.
Yep. Yeah, and that's why Mazda, and especially Toyota as well.
Your Camry was fully option, wasn't it? 91. 91. It was beautiful. It was like driving a 2015 car that just looked like a bit of a box.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and it drove well. It drove like new, like towards the end of its life, and it had like 300,000 kilometers. Yeah.
This is if you're just joining us, this is the Camry appreciation show.
Camrys aren't all that bad. Yeah, Camrys get a bad rap all over the world, but like they're boring, this, that, and the other. But you know what? A Camry is actually not a bad car. And they're gonna be like, oh, how can you call yourself a car if you like a Camry? But you know,
all cars. Like if you're a car lover, you love all cars.
That's exactly right. And we're here to love cars on the show. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here talking about this on a damn well Tuesday night. But yeah, no, like that Camry had technology coming out of its backside, and you know, and back in '91, and like I was speaking last time I had you on, we talked about that Lexus LS400. That car had an engine, right? had the 4-liter V8, you know, quad cam V8. It was the only engine at the time that was approved, like in automotive use and in aviation use. The engine was that over engineered and that well designed.
Those Japanese know what they're doing.
they do. And to this day, like those engines are still really popular, like, and as a secondhand, like aftermarket drop in because you know, they were just over engineered to the point of insanity that they're just never going to break.
That's crazy.
And when the Japs get on something, like they get on something. Yeah. So they don't muck around.
It right. Yeah.
They do it right. They don't muck around, which is I think it's good because at the end of the day, if you look, my grandmother, for example, she's had she's had 2 Camrys over the last 20 years. She's had one, went forever, and then it was still like brand new when she sold it, and got a new one, upgraded. Her husband had Hiluxes.
Yeah.
For
Hilux Top Gear proved that it was like indestructible.
Indestructible, exactly right. Yeah, and he had one after the other, and he just took them bush bashing everything.
Yeah.
Super reliable cars, and I'm like to him, because when I was younger, I'm like, why didn't you get a Ford? They're like, well, why would we change? Because we Toyotas just do everything right.
Exactly.
And if that's and that's the case when you're doing something right, you don't have to change.
I guess that's one of the main reasons we just couldn't compete in Australia with our industry. So it's like we're not, the government's not always to blame. We're not always to blame. It's just sometimes Japanese are better. Yeah, they all the time. Yeah. They're better.
Look, at the end of the day, like we've got some fantastic cars here, and look, your average, your Falcon's a cab, and it'll do like 1 million Ks.
Yeah,
and
police cars,
and the Commodores are police cars and cabs and stuff as well. But have you noticed on the roads now? Because since Ford's pretty much dying out, what are the new cabs? They're all Toyotas. They're all Camrys.
Yeah, I've seen Prius cabs as well.
Prius cabs as well. So it's like a changing of the guard, I think, to be honest with you, because we all know that the old Fords and Commodores will do like 1 million Ks. Especially the Ford 4-liter. Yeah. Will do like 1 million. Will tick over and keep going, but we're seeing now, because obviously the industry is changing. Like, well, we're not going to be able to use Fords anymore. They're going to be gone. What's the next reliable source? A Camry. So they're
really?
Yep. So they'll every second taxi I see now is like legit a Camry. It was like rare to see a Camry taxi or any other besides a Ford as a cab.
I mean, that's a good choice.
It is a good choice, and at the end of the day, like I've barely ever seen one, but I've seen a cab broken down. So
I've just looked it up now. In Japan, the police use Nissan GTR, Subaru Impreza, Honda NSX, and Mazda RX-8s
for police cars. Yeah.
So I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, you wouldn't expect to see that here.
No, you
the cops will be called hoons. They'll be calling themselves hoons. They'll be arresting themselves,
and they'll be crushing their own cars. But but before we go to break, I'll tell you a quick story. During the VT and AU state, like late '90s, early 2000s, they had Commodores as like as their and Falcons as their pursuit cars and stuff, highway patrol. Anyway, WRXs were around that time, and they couldn't catch them.
No.
So what was the next step you think they took? They started using WRXs to catch the cops, to catch the crims. So.
You can't beat them, join them.
That's exactly right. So, that is a true story. The old 5-liter just couldn't keep up with the nimble all-wheel drive Rex. So, that's why they got a cult following anyway, Rexes. So.
I like them. That's if I can get one after this Mazda, I'll get a Rexy.
Rexys are cool, and they're an awesome car. Like Alan has been on the show. He loves his. So.
It's a nice looking car, nice everything.
And they drive so well, they're fantastic to drive. Look, we're going to go to a break. 98.9 Northwest FM, you're back on CarTorque with Matty J. Still joined the studio by James J, James Squared, James, what else have you been called? Stir Fry?
JJ.
JJ Mac.
I can't remember. What are the nicknames?
I can't remember. I don't even know.
The Mac.
The Mac. the Mac Daddy. So, moving on a bit, because we could talk about Japanese.
Oh, we could go on forever and ever and ever.
But again, we've only got an hour segment. So, electric cars, they are coming with a vengeance, especially under the pioneering of Tesla recently.
Tesla is the only moving force behind proper infrastructure to support electric cars.
Yep.
Other than them, if it wasn't for them, the electric car just would have died straight away.
They would be an irrelevancy, to be honest.
Yeah.
And having said that, though, they've really come in leaps and bounds. The cars aren't cheap.
That's one of the problems. The other problems that I was mentioned to you when I said we should talk about electric cars is they are all ugly.
Yep.
The only like okay looking ones are some of the Tesla ones.
Yep.
But you know they're $100,000 plus.
150 more.
And
200.
you know, just the Prius is just the ugliest, stupidest thing.
Well, the Prius is still technically a hybrid. So,
Hybrid, yeah.
So,
I guess we should say this is also some hybrids are thrown in there because you know there aren't a lot of like straight up electric cars.
Yep.
I'd just like to point out that the Nissan Leaf is the ugliest car I've ever seen. It has this like little nose flap where you put the charger in, and I'm just like, what? Nissan, please. I mean, we've been talking about how good Japanese cars are, and they really blew it on that one.
On the Leaf, and have you seen the Mitsubishi i-MiEV or I can't remember.
Oh yeah.
It looks like a smart car.
Yeah, but it's just this ugly little bug. Not even.
I don't even know what it is.
A gnat.
It's like short. No, it's like wait. So it's like tall and thin. I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a weird looking car, but that's another electric car.
Mm.
But having said that, like those are the cheaper ones, or cheaper. Like they're still quite expensive.
Yeah.
But then you look at your Teslas, which are really quite a nice car. And they're kind of ridiculous with the big power they're putting out.
Yeah.
Like they got some have got what's called ludicrous mode. Have you heard about the ludicrous mode?
I don't think so.
So basically, what ludicrous mode is, it's like you have to have like good charge and like there's a few things to do before you can do it.
Yeah.
But it can make you launch because with an electric car, you've got torque straight away.
It's already because it's already backed up.
It's like click your fingers, like legit.
Yeah,
torque's there.
It's like turning a light switch on.
Whereas in a combustion engine, you know, it
has to build.
It has to build up, or you know, it's got a certain torque point. This has got torque straight away. So basically, what ludicrous mode is, you know, a Nissan GDR, yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, it's got like a launch control. It's like launches to 0 to 100 like 2.9 seconds or something. Yeah. This electric car that weighs, you know, a lot with the batteries can do it in pretty much the same time, if not faster.
That's pretty impressive.
It's insane. They put all their power to all the different wheels because all the wheels have got an engine. And just they they charge and they hit so hard because it's just the torque, and you've got an absolute rocket ship.
I mean, you mentioned electric cars, and you know, car lovers go, "Oh, they're crap. You can't race in them. You can't be seen in one of them. You look like an idiot." But you know, I think Tesla's proving that
they're changing.
Hopefully, in the future, electric cars will be just as cool as. I mean, nothing's going to be as cool as just a giant gas guzzler. I mean, like I said, the Mustang, the death trap is part of the charm. I mean, Mad Max wouldn't be the same if he had to like stop and wind up a electric battery.
he had to stop at a Tesla charging station.
Yeah, and he had to wait
charge up the Interceptor.
But I mean, hopefully, because things are changing, and hopefully in the future, more motor enthusiasts will be more open to the idea of having electric cars. I mean, even like an electric. I think there's not a hybrid Mustang, is there?
No, there's not.
But they're making their way, towards that. I think.
Well, hybrids are pretty much mainstream now. Everyone's like every company's done one. Pretty much every company, but like everyone's kind of on the hybrid technology. But you know what though? This is not like the first bit of electric cars. Electric cars were around a long time ago.
100 years ago they started.
100 years ago, and they came back. I think in the they tried to really come back. I think it was in the 70s or 80s.
There was like a green movement.
Yeah. Anyway, basically it got kind of shut down by the fuel companies because obviously they want to make their money. But having said that, they're starting to make a comeback, and like Tesla's obviously in $1 bazillion worth of debt. But they're going to be releasing some more affordable cars to complement their really expensive cars. Because pretty much all their money's gone towards is designing and stuff. So they're not really making money yet. They're going to be a powerhouse very shortly. Yeah. Once they got their new cars coming up.
What I really like about Tesla is like they're trying to initiate change.
They are,
and make a discussion instead of just going, hey, we're going to make a car and make $1 gajillion.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like that they did, they released their patents for like the electric, technology that they use, the engine technology. So like if you want to build a Tesla engine in your garage, that is legal.
You can do it.
They've released the patent to public use.
That's awesome.
So I mean that's really interesting. Like it's like open source sharing of technology.
Yep.
So and I think that's good for the future because. I mean, you can imagine if 50 years ago or whenever, when the computer was starting to become more in use, if someone, patented in it and, only a few companies were allowed to use or sell it, I mean,
they'd have the monopoly.
This world would be just nowhere. We wouldn't have the internet. We wouldn't have lots of things. So I think it's interesting, and a good thing for the future is if more people, not just companies, but just people on their own, just doing their own research and stuff, can just, take technology and run.
Yeah. I completely, sorry to something that I completely agree with you there, because giving that technology to other people is just saying, look, you can do it as well. You can be part of this change.
It's like we might not be thinking of it, but you might, or the kid who's only five years old now, and when he's older, he might come up with it. So if everything was behind lock and key, nothing's going to change. But if you go, I guess it's the same sort of like with Japanese cars. If they never got hold of the rotary engine, we wouldn't have the RX-7.
Exactly right. Yeah.
If some guy in his garage never got hold of the Tesla, plans,
blueprints and all that,
we might not in the future might not have something we desperately need. The cure for cancer could be there. I mean, who knows? I mean, that's a bit far, but
there probably is a cure for cancer, and we just don't know about it. Pharmaceutical companies, I think. But at the end of the day, we need to change, and it's hitting that point. Look, I love the combustion engine. I think everyone else that loves a car loves the combustion engine.
The sound is a major factor of why people don't like electric cars as well. It is like, and it is weird. Like I was in the city, I was at City at uni, and I was on Swanson Street. And anyway, I just hear zzz, and I turn around. Like, it was the most quietest buzz, but then it was a Tesla. It was a P90D, whatever it was. I can't remember the exact model it was, but it just drove past. And I pretty much just heard tire noise and just the little buzz, and it is odd. It
is an odd feel. It's an odd sensation.
I know they've been working on making artificial combustion engine sounds that come from electric cars.
Yeah.
So it's just like a speaker that. And I mean, people have been saying it's safer because you can hear the car coming from around the corner and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean that. In the future, people will think that's silly, but now it's we're trying to make the electric car more accessible and more favourable. So I mean, it's my interesting idea for now.
It is, and then look at the end of the day, it's the same thing with the hybrids and that. When they're coming to a stop and when they're in bumper, you just hear the electric motors run.
Yeah,
and it is a weird noise. If you're just driving around your back streets and you can't hear the car coming, if a kid rolls his ball across the road and gets hit, you won't hear it. These are some of the reasons why people are well, maybe it's not the best thing. Maybe we need to do something different.
I've also heard I haven't done it myself, but and I've heard from people who've drove the Prius that sometimes when you put your foot down to get going,
give it the beans,
you don't hear anything, and so you're kind of wondering if the engine's still on, and then you hesitate, and you're wait, what's going on?
Yeah.
So it's yes, it's dangerous for pedestrians, but also the driver has no idea what's going on either.
Well, yeah, it's a bit odd, and it's just they're very odd to drive, especially if you've never driven one. Having said that, though, I think General Motors with the Volt. I don't know if you heard the
Chevy Volt
and
the Holden Volt too. Yeah,
it's been they didn't sell a lot here because they were expensive, but it's a great idea, and it's
that's an okay looking one because it just looks like a Holden,
It kind of looks like a Holden Cruise, really. But basically, how that worked is you had good range on your electric motor, and you also had if you wanted to go long distance, your petrol engine.
Yeah.
So if you ever got caught out, you just chuck your petrol engine on, and you're right to go, which is that's how it should be. It's given the performance of both worlds, not with a hybrid Prius kind of thing where it's comes on and it changes. One or the other. So technically, you can run that car on no fuel for ever if you really wanted to.
I think for now that's the way to go until we get the infrastructure properly put in.
Yep.
I mean, that's the only way to do it because, a lot of people, you don't want to be driving and not have a way to charge. And, I mean, there are, Tesla's put out the supercharger stations, which apparently charge in 30 minutes. But that's mainly like a US thing. I don't think there's many here at all.
I don't think there's many here, but they're on their way. Like as I said,
yeah,
Tesla's on a move in a big way.
Yeah. So Tesla's the moving force behind this, and once they get more, charging stations and stuff out, then hopefully there'll be a bigger push, for more electric cars and shit. Because they don't sell well here. Even dealers don't want to buy them to sell. Like they're just very.
And they're still a bit awkward, but we'll get to that after this. We're going to go to a quick break, final break of the night. It's a good way to end the night, actually. That's the end of the show for tonight. Thanks for coming on again, James.
Oh, I had a lot of fun.
We opened up a lot of questions there, especially with electric cars.
Yeah, I think one of the things I'll just quickly touch on, I don't think I said, with solar energy and electric car, if you put the infrastructure in, that creates a new industry, which creates new jobs. Mm-hmm. So we've lost the auto industry in Australia. Now it's time to get other industries. So, we need, Tesla's just built a factory in the Nevada desert, Gigafactory 1, which produces all their batteries for their cars. That's cool. So I'm like, why can't we do that in the Aussie deserts out here? So that'll create, more jobs and industry in the future. Yeah. And so once we get that infrastructure in, who knows what will happen? The future is unknown and bright.
It is. And hopefully we can wake up to ourselves and realize that.
Yeah.
It is the future. It's happening. It
has to happen sometime. So.
At the end of the day, we're going to run out of oil. It won't be in our lifetime. Probably won't be in our kids' lifetime. But it's going to happen. So. We're going to have to start doing things now. Look, it's 8 o'clock. We're going to sign off for tonight. I'll just give a quick shout out to Dr. Rock. He gives me a shout out, so I always have time to give him a shout out. So on his show on a Tuesday night, it's called For Your Pleasure, and on his show on Thursday night with Fitzy, the Thursday Waffle. And shout out to all our listeners as well. We're getting a good fan base all over. So we've got some listeners in America now.
Yeah.
So shout out to you guys, but listen to our podcast as well.
Yeah.
If you've missed an episode, listen to our podcast. It's on Shout Engine. I upload it every week to our Facebook page. Give our Facebook page a like. It's CarTorque with Matty J. Just look it up. It'll come up on there. It's just a steering wheel with the logo. It's pretty simple to find. But yeah, get on there and listen to our podcast if you need to catch up, because we've had some great discussions on the show. But just thank you to all our listeners as well. The encouragement is what makes me do this show from you guys. So thank you. And thanks to you, James, to help me out on the weekend. You helped me out quite a bit. So.
Oh yeah, no, all good, man. I'm glad everything went well.
Yeah, thanks, pal. All good. Well, I'll sign off for tonight. Thanks again, James, and I will see you guys next week. Take it easy.